So I get a phone call in the middle of the night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I answer it. I'm like, hello, it's one of my friends. He goes, hey man, I just got saved. I'm like, what happened? And he says, well, I was sitting at my computer desk and I looked over at my front door and I knew that somebody was at the other side. So I went over to answer it, and it was the physical presence of God, and I just got saved. And I'm like, okay. And he says, and you need to get saved too. What's it going to take? What's it going to take? Do I need to get in my car and come over there? Okay, I'm getting over there. I'm coming over there right now. So he gets in his car at 2:30 in the morning in the rain and starts driving over to my house, yelling and shouting for demons to come off of me in the name of Jesus. And it was a very excited, irritated sort of conversation on his part. And suddenly the conversation ended. And after he hung up, I was like, I think I got to get dressed now because I don't know if he's going to come over here, and I got sleeping children in the house. So I did that. He never showed up. Well, later on that day, which felt like the next day to me, the sun came up. And I got contacted by the police department through Facebook saying that my friend had apparently stopped his car in the middle of the highway and abandoned the vehicle. And when the patrol car came up behind it, they found it empty, so they call a tow truck. And he comes running out of nowhere and starts banging on the police car, yelling and shouting my name over and over again. So they arrest him for public intoxication with cited suspected drug usage, which was totally accurate because his attitude was not like alcohol related. It was clearly drug induced, and they arrested him. So I contacted the family and I talked with them, trying to get the car out of the impound. And I said, what is he on? Because, you know, as everybody suspected, it was some kind of mental problem with him, and I could only imagine that it would be drug related. And so they pulled out a diet drug, a thing of diet pills called Phentermine. And I started researching what phentermine can do to a person, which apparently can cause psychosis. So, unfortunately, while he was in the custody of the police, he was talking crazy. He was in a delusional, hallucinative state of mind, and he was saying a lot of things that were probably not accurate. And then an investigation was launched, and they hit him with 3 accusations, 3 felonies that he is accused of. 10 days later, he snapped out of it, but as of now, his life is forever changed, and life as he knows it is just over. He's going to have to restart from scratch. The news reported about it. It's a mess. It's a total mess. So the question of this video, the topic of this video rather, is, can diet drugs cause mental problems? And the short answer is yes, they can. I'm not a doctor, but I've done some research that I'd like to share with you today in this video via Google and the different websites that you can find out there, different case studies and all. So phentermine is an amphetamine, and amphetamine can cause psychosis, delusions, hallucinations, mania, schizophrenic-like behaviors. This is usually related to overdose, which means that you've taken the drug for too long or you've taken too much of it all at one time. But in order to have this special kind of reaction, you do not need to have an overdose. You just need to be the right person with the right drug. So let's dive in and check out what Dr. Google has to say about this. So by doing a Google search for the word phentermine, a lot of different reputable websites pop up: WebMD, Mayo Clinic, Wikipedia. So let's just look at these at the top results and see what it says about phentermine causing mental problems. So under WebMD, under the Uses tab, it says it's not known how this medication helps people to lose weight. It may work by decreasing your appetite, increasing the amount of energy used by your body, or by affecting certain parts of the brain. Under the Side Effects tab, it says, tell your doctor right away if any of these unlikely but serious side effects occur, and hallucinations is listed within those. Under mayoclinic.org, under the side effects section, it says that rare side effects are seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not there. That's the exact definition of hallucination. Or severe mental changes. Under Wikipedia, Phentermine. It says on the adverse effects section, it says that there are rare reports of euphoria followed by fatigue and depression, and very rarely psychotic episodes and hallucinations. And under the mechanisms of action, it says that its parent compound is amphetamine, and that's known to cause psychosis. GoodRX.com, under the common and rare side effects, it lists rare side effects as seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not there. Cardiosmart.org says overdose symptoms may include confusion, hallucinations. Phentermine may impair your thinking or reactions. And under the possible side effects of phentermine, it lists confusion or irritability, unusual thoughts, or behavior. Drugs.com says under the what happens if I overdose section, it says overdose symptoms may include confusion, panic, and hallucinations. Drugbank.ca says reports of acute overdose include hallucinations and panic state. Everydayhealth.com says hallucinations, which hearing or seeing things that are not there. So the list goes on and on. I can quote multiple different websites that are not on this list, but that's good enough for me. What it doesn't say here, specifically, it doesn't say mania, psychosis. It doesn't say how long these hallucinations are supposed to last. So let's dive into that and see some case studies when we look up phentermine hallucinations or phentermine psychosis. One of the top search results comes from a website called ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, and the title is called Recurrent Psychosis After Phentermine Administration in a Young Female, a Case Report. So the actual case report you got to scroll down to, and it says that a 25-year-old Korean female was admitted to the psychiatric ward in April 2016 because she was displaying psychotic symptoms. And a mental status examination showed that she had persecutory delusions, which she thought that people were persecuting her, delusion of reference, which is also called idea of reference sometimes. It means that she's paranoid. So, for example, she'd hear people talking or whispering. She'd think that they're whispering about her. Hear people laughing, well, they're laughing about her, that kind of thing. She had auditory hallucinations, so she was hearing voices. And all this occurred 6 weeks before she was admitted there. Now, history revealed that she became preoccupied with her body weight from time to time, and so she started taking these diet pills. Included in those was phentermine, and she'd take like one pill each day, which was 37.5 milligrams. So she first took these medications irregularly, and then she started becoming paranoid, and she avoided social interactions, such as refusing to participate in group projects during her college classes. But those symptoms didn't really cause significant problems. Okay, after her and her boyfriend broke up in November of 2012, then she started overdosing phentermine, meaning that she was taking 3 to 4 pills a day. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, she was displaying psychotic symptoms. So she wasn't able to attend school. She had to take a year of sick leave from her college. And she was recommended to take antipsychotics by a psychiatrist, but she refused to do so. And just coincidentally, she stopped taking phentermine as well, and then those psychotic symptoms stopped after that. It seems like she didn't know that the phentermine was the cause of that psychotic reaction. She probably thought that it was just organic within her. So after returning to school in February 2014, she also became preoccupied with her body weight one more time, and then she started taking phentermine irregularly, and she showed idea of reference from time to time. And then it became regular in early 2015, and it progressed to where she was taking 4 times the normal amount. So she was taking 4 pills a day. And 2 months before the admission, she was doing that. So shortly afterwards, she started to feel that her coworkers were constantly watching her and trying to physically abuse her. She also started having auditory hallucinations, which were voices of her parents criticizing her about taking phentermine. So she also became violent and a threat to her own safety. So she was hospitalized to our psychiatric ward by her legal guardian, as it says. So skipping down a little bit, you can see they say, we concluded that phentermine was most likely the cause of her psychotic symptoms, and we prescribed her antipsychotics because her psychotic symptoms persisted, although she stopped taking the diet pills 3 days before her admission. So they gave her medication, and after the 8th day of admission, her delusions subsided substantially, and she interacted appropriately within the psychiatric ward. You can only imagine how she was actually acting while she was there. Moreover, she started having insight about her symptoms and realized the risk of overdosing phentermine. So her symptoms improved gradually, and she was discharged on the 28th day of admission. That's with taking medication. Imagine how long it takes to recover when you're not taking any medication. So if you go to the result from mdedge.com and click on their PDF, you can see their topic is "The Skinny on One Patient Psychosis." In my opinion, is a very interesting article. It says, Miss P, age 30, fears that she's being stalked and is too terrified to be home alone. Worried, her ex-boyfriend calls police, who bring her to the emergency room. And at the ER, Miss P reports that surveillance cameras have been planted inside of her house, that men often stand on her roof and watch her go to her car, and that men are constantly stalking her. She also hears voices and reports frightening peripheral visions of outsiders. The ER doctor consults the psychiatry service and orders laboratory tests, but all results, including the urine drug screen findings, are negative. So Miss P says that she's been sleeping 3 or 4 hours nightly. She acknowledges depressed mood and decreased appetite, leading to a 10-pound weight loss over 1 month. And she says that she's felt depressed on and off for several years, but she never received any treatment for the symptoms. We admit her to the psychiatric unit to treat her acute onset psychosis. They also say, lately Miss P's life has been difficult. A college sophomore, she's failing all of her classes, and she was recently fired from her job as a case manager because of inappropriate behavior, such as buying gifts for the children that she was managing and taking them all for haircuts without their parents' permission. Several months ago, she broke up with her boyfriend of 6 years, and in addition to these stressors, she recently moved into an apartment and for the first time was living on her own. Her medical history, they say that she hasn't had any medical problems. She would binge drink alcohol once or twice a month. She would take energy pills over the internet because she couldn't wake up without them. If you scroll down, this is where it gets pretty interesting, in my opinion. You see it says, 5 days after admission, we discharged Miss P as her psychosis has improved significantly. Later that day, an outpatient, she basically said she was afraid to take those antipsychotics because she didn't want to gain weight, and that was a side effect from taking, I think it was haloperidol. Okay, 1 week later, Miss P's parents again brought her to the ER after the police found her sitting in her car, confused and paranoid. She complains that cameras have been set up in her car, and she responds to voices when alone. So on the way to the ER, Miss P tries to jump from the moving car. She assaults her mother as she stops her from jumping. Scrolling down, it says, in an interview, Miss P admits that she stopped taking the antipsychotic medication and she started taking phentermine. All right, so the author's observation says, although we knew that Miss P was abusing diet pills, we could have easily ruled out drug-induced psychosis based on her 3 negative urine drug screens. The clinical courses of Miss P's psychosis, however, closely followed her diet pill use, emerging soon after starting phentermine and remitting soon after stopping it. Also, she was taking 2 to 3 times the recommended dosage of phentermine for several months. It says phentermine is indicated for a short term, which is a few weeks. All right, so let's scroll down again. It says stimulant medications such as amphetamines and stimulant drugs such as cocaine can produce psychotic symptoms, including paranoid delusions, hallucinations, and bizarre behavior. That is crazy that they are comparing phentermine to cocaine. This article comes from psychiatryonline.org, and the title is Psychotic Mania Associated with Fenfluramine and Phentermine Use. So it says Miss A was a white 45-year-old woman, and she had major depression, history of alcohol abuse. She gained 60 pounds. Long story short, she was morbidly obese at the end. Scroll down and it says she started taking fenfluramine and phentermine for that morbid obesity. And then after 2 weeks, she experienced a sudden onset of auditory hallucinations, pressured speech, markedly reduced sleep, grandiose delusion that God was explaining the universe to her, and combative behavior that required 4-point restraints upon hospital admission. So she started taking antipsychotic drugs, something called haloperidol. Sometimes I call it haloperidol, but I'm not professional. I think it's haloperidol. And so her symptoms were resolved within 24 hours. But guess what happens? After 2 months, she starts taking Fenfluramine and Phentermine again, and within 2 weeks, she was admitted to the medical service, and after receiving, again, haloperidol in the emergency room, she was discharged the next morning with her symptoms again appearing to have been remitted. However, despite the fact that she had stopped taking Fenfluramine and Phentermine, she became increasingly psychotic and agitated over the next 7 days. So she was hospitalized and treated with haloperidol, and within 24 hours her psychosis resolved, but it looks like she remained hypomanic. Academic.oup.com has a case study I want to focus on. It's case number 2. It says a 34-year-old male was accompanied by his family to the Department of Neuropsychiatry for evaluation of mood swing, auditory hallucination, tactile hallucination, and behavioral change. So he was prescribed diet medications at a local diet clinic with Phentermine and 3 others for about 3 years. And about 1 year ago, he overused 3 to 4 times as much he was supposed to in stressful times, and he experienced acute onset severe psychomotor agitation, paranoid feature, and hallucination intermittently correlated with overdose of diet medications. So after admission, he took a antipsychotic medication, and there was no symptoms in 3 days after the admission. 1 month later, after discharge, he still takes that antipsychotic medication, and no symptoms exist. This website is cpn.or.kr, and it says appetite suppressor induced psychosis. So they say, we report on a patient who had been taking the appetite suppressant Phentermine for 2 years and experienced a sudden onset of psychotic symptoms. She had no past history of psychiatric treatment and no family history of psychiatric illness. She experienced continuous auditory hallucinations and paranoid delusions without disordered thinking and significant negative symptoms. She stopped taking medication immediately, and it took about 10 more days, and she was symptom-free afterwards. Okay, this one also comes from nih.gov. Title is Schizophreniform-like Psychotic Disorder Induced by Phentermine. And it says, Phentermine is a central nervous system stimulant that can increase brain dopamine levels and has a structure similar to amphetamine. We report a case of schizophreniform-like psychotic disorder induced by Phentermine in a young woman without a personal or family history of psychotic disorders. So the patient had taken Phentermine 30 milligrams daily for more than 3 years, which is way too long unless it was on and off somehow. You're only supposed to take this stuff for about 12 weeks, which is 3 months. So it says psychotic symptoms developed acutely after she increased the Phentermine dosage from 150 to 180 milligrams a day for 1 month due to an increase in workload. After she stopped the Phentermine and she started taking neuroleptics, the psychotic symptoms subsided in 2 weeks. There's actually a lot more case studies out there that I did not put into this video. I didn't choose them because they're kind of boring, to tell you the truth. They lack information, they lack details. So if you thought that this whole thing was boring, you ought to keep on reading because it's going to be a lot more of the same. But it's generally going to say something like a certain person of a certain race and certain gender took a certain diet drug for a certain amount of days, and it took so many days for them to get over their psychotic reaction. Check it out. It's all over the place. What do we take away from this now? What I personally take away from this is that there are no shortcuts to health and fitness. Everybody wants to do things faster, and they want to get a special pill or use a special method to do things smarter, faster. easier, you name it. But when it comes to a diet drug that messes with your brain, you know, you could end up with clinical depression for the rest of your life. You could really end up with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. When you're older, you could have dementia just because you wanted to get thinner, you know, sometime earlier in life, when all you had to do was bite the bullet and diet and exercise the right way. So that's all. God bless you fat folks out there. In the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, put that cookie down! Thank you.